Hello, students. Welcome to this presentation on microbiome research. And let me tell you, this is one of the most rapidly growing field of research where scientists are doing a lot of research to understand how these microorganisms are interlinked and how these microorganisms are helping us in our day-to-day life. So in this course or in this presentation, you will be able to understand like a brief introduction about microbiome research, what it is, like overview of microbiome with respect to human and why it is important and what it is exactly. What do you mean by microbiome and how it is related to humans and what are the benefits of these microorganisms to the human as such. So microbiome is a fascinating world of science and microbiome research is one of the most rapidly growing field and scientists find like no huge potential in this area of research and they feel there is lot to be studied and lot to be understood in this area and till now we know that human genome project got completed in April 2003 and during that time scientists realized that it is not sufficient for us to understand only about our genes genomes how they work and function for understanding like know how our human biology is related and how it works because they felt like there are so many microorganisms living in on and around us, and it is not for the time being but throughout our life these microorganisms are there with us, and they felt there is a huge need to understand the role of these microorganisms in our life, to understand how they are influencing our like uh, host processes such as growth, development, physiology, immunity of our body, and nutrition, and how the diseases are caused. And these all areas of research are being carried out in last 2 decades, and scientists find really huge interest in working on these areas, and this field of research is interdisciplinary and it deals with different subjects like human medicine, agriculture, food science, biotechnology, and mathematics are all interrelated, and they take help of all these areas and work together in understanding how these microorganisms are helping us. So, what they find is something fascinating and interesting when they compared humans with the microorganisms. Okay, they found that there are 100 trillions of these microorganisms is equal to one human, and from these microorganisms 10 bacteria is equal to one human cell, and 100 viruses is equal to one human cell. From these 360 resident genes of these microorganisms is equal to one human gene, and 10,000 species of these microorganisms is equal to one human species. So with these numbers, they've thought that like we are more of microbes than a human, and we are like in a soup of microorganisms. This is where their interest in researching more about these microorganisms started developing, and slowly they proposed a project called Human Microbiome Project, and it was called as Second Human Genome Project. And this project was mostly focused on understanding different microorganisms that are involved in host pathogen or host microbe kind of interactions, where they could understand how these microorganisms are helping in our growth, development, physiology, and our immunity, like that what I told before. And with this, it is like very important for us to understand first of all what is microbiome. Okay, microbiome is an ancient Greek term, and it is made up of two words, that is, first one called micro, that is small, and biome, which has Greek term in this, that means life. So, and the ending is modified by ome. So now when you see microbiome, it means small life, right? So this term was coined somewhere into 1998 by Vips and their co-workers when they were working on these microorganisms, and they were trying to understand about how these microorganisms are working together with the host system. So they defined microbiome as an entire habitat of a body or a system in which they included microorganisms, their genes, genomes, and the entire surrounding environmental conditions in which they are there. So, according to microbiome, they meant to say that this included all the bacteria, archaea, fungi, protists, algae, along with that, all the other activities carried out by these microorganisms by using their microbial structural elements like protein or peptides, lipids, polysaccharides, and internal or external structure elements that includes like nucleic acid, DNA or RNA, and certain mobile genetic elements like viruses, phages, and relic DNAs. And not only these, but some of the microbial metabolites secreted by these microorganisms, like signaling molecules, some of the toxins, and organic and inorganic molecules. And along with that, they did include the environmental conditions in which they are present, like the temperature, pH, and all other factors. All together, they m- made this us to understand that microbiome is not just microorganisms, but it's more than that, right? So it includes everything, like host, environment, all other structural elements, and all the things by how it is functioning and working. So, and you will find one another term called microbiota, which is like analogously used in literatures in place of microbiome. So it is very important for us to understand what is the difference between microbiome and microbiota. And let me tell you that this is a controversial subject where it is still not clear, like, no, what is microbiome and what is microbiota. So in order to understand this, many scientists came together and had a discussion and try to understand and demarcate the meaning of microbiome and microbiota. So, what they came to understand that microbiota, if we see, is again a Greek ancient term, which is made up of two words called micros, that is small in nature, and biota, that is all the living organisms of an ecosystem or in a particular environment. So, microbiota are small living organisms of an ecosystem or in a particular environment. And this microbiota, according to them, it consisted of all wide varieties of only living microorganisms in the particular environment. For example, if you see the human gut digestive system, here you find different kinds of microorganisms present in this specific location and how they function and how they are there in that specific location, what functions they are doing is known as microbiota. So, microbiota includes bacteria, archaea, fungi, protists, and algae, but they do not include any other structural elements or internal or external structure elements in the microbiota. So, microbiota is community of microorganisms that are present in a particular system, excluding their microbial structural element or their external or internal structure elements are known as microbiota. So now let us look at how is their role and function. So now we understand the composition of microbiome includes archaea, bacteria, viruses, fungi, algae, even small protists, phages, genetic material, that DNA, RNA, and plasmid viruses, everything is included along with their environmental condition in which these microorganisms are present. And the composition of these microbiome is highly changing and highly dynamic in nature, and they are highly diverse in numbers, and their function is also very distinct to the host in which they are present and the ecosystem in which they are there. So when you see the microbiome consists of like trillions of microorganisms that are colonizing on human or in a ecosystem in which they are there, right? So they are highly dynamic and play a very different role and functions in the body. When you see a human body, you find like bacteria all over the body, right? And different phyla of these microorganisms, mainly bacterial phyla, and their genus are distributed in a very distinct and in different compositions. When you see, like, there are total five five phyla of bacteria, that is actinobacteria, bacteroidetes, fumaricates, and fusobacteria and proteobacteria, and their genus of these bacteria are distributed in a totally different manner and in a different composition in all over the body and inside the body. When you see proteobacteria, that is in yellow color, and proteobacteria, sorry, which is in green color, and bacteroidetes, that is in yellow color, you find these mostly localized in mouth part, highly dominant in the mouth part of the body, right? So depending upon their role and function, the diversity and their composition is also varied, and these are composed of both harmful as well as beneficial microorganisms. And similarly, when you see the plant system, in the plant system also, these microbiome is composed of both beneficial as well as harmful microorganisms. And based on the location where they are present, these microorganisms are named in a different name, like the microorganisms that are mostly located in the soil part of the plant is known as rhizosphere, and the one which are present above the soil surface on the plant are known as phyllosphere. And the composition and uh, their dynamics is also again different, and they are composed of bacteria, fungi, oomycetes, viruses, protists, algae, and nematodes. So these compositions are highly variable depending upon the location where these microorganisms are present. So now let us look at how is microbiome made up of, and what is microbiome of a human. So human microbiome is again a community of different microorganisms that are present and live in and on our body parts like skin, mouth, nose, and even stomach, colon, different body parts. And they are responsive to various factors like genetic makeup of the organism or the human being, the environment in which the person is there, and the diet he or she is consuming every day, and kind of lifestyle they lead and live, and the hormones secreted by the body, and in the industry where the person is working. These all factors are responsible for deciding what kind of microorganisms are present on the body or in the body, and in what composition they are present is also influenced by these external factors and certain internal factors. So they play different kinds of role. Okay, on skin, these microorganisms are responsible for protecting us from different types of infections and help in regulating the inflammation caused by certain pathogenic microorganisms. And in mouth, they help, for digesting different kinds of food that we consume, and also they prevent from dental caries. Okay, and in nose, they help in again purifying the air and also for humidifying the air that we breathe every second, and also help in preventing from several infections that are caused in our respiratory system. And in gut, they help in digesting different kinds of food that we everyday consume and produce vitamins, hormones, and also help in modulating the immune system of the body. And human skin, if you see, you can find staphylococcus on the skin surface. In mouth also you can find streptococcus, lactobacillus, and in nose you find cornybacterium, and in gut you will find, for example, bacteroidetes, and in genitilla you find lactobacillus and gardnerella. And these microorganisms, they are not just like helping only in these areas of digesting, filtering, and all, but they have capacity to influence our behavior, our thoughts, our mood, our kind of emotions we present every second. And do you know how do they do this all? They have capacity to communicate through their gut brain axis. Through this gut brain axis, they can communicate through certain signaling molecules by using central nervous system, and they use our certain metabolic pathways, hormonal pathways, and neural pathways, and try to communicate and influence our behavior, thoughts, moods, emotions that we are presenting. And these microbiome that are present on humans are shaped by early life factors like breastfeeding, mode of delivery, environmental factors. These are all certain factors that I said influences how they are shaped. And these microbiome that are developed during the process of our life, and they have long term effect on our overall health. So I said, let us see how they influence. Okay. So I said breastfeeding. So during breastfeeding, mother passes on certain beneficial microorganism to the infant and also provide nutrients to the infant gut. By transferring these microorganisms, it is the possibility that mother is able to transform some beneficial microorganisms that are able to provide certain nutrients to the infant gut. Whereas when you see the baby which is only bottle fed has totally different composition and different types of microorganisms present in the infant gut due to the bottle feeding, because they lack those beneficial microorganisms that are transferred through breastfeeding of the mother. And the mode of delivery, that is the infant that is born through vaginal delivery, has different kinds of microbiome, whereas the one which is born through c-section has totally different kind of microorganisms present on the or in the body of infant baby. So this process of delivery exposes the newborn to different microbial communities during the birth process. So, and certain environmental factors that I told now affects the overall diversity and composition of these microorganisms, and it happens throughout our life. So these microorganisms are not just passive passengers, but they are, in fact, a very active players in influencing and playing important role in deciding our health and overall good well-being of our body. So now let us see what is the benefit of these microbiome that are present on the human or in the human body. So these microorganisms benefit humans' health and their well-being by helping in harvesting the energy that we get from digested food. So these microorganisms are responsible for helping the body to break down complex food molecules like that we eat, like meats and vegetables. So without these gut bacteria, it is difficult for us to digest these food and get energy. And second, they help in protecting against pathogen. So gut microbiota has potential pathogens, and there are pathogenic microorganisms, and some of the gut microorganisms which are beneficial to us, they always try to compete with these pathogenic microorganisms for nutrients uptake and the space where they are present, compete for that space and provide certain antimicrobial substances to fight against these pathogenic microorganisms and modulate our host gene expression. Okay. And the gut microbiota also influences the development and overall activity of our immune system and help us to fight against these infection and overcome and overcome these infections. And these microbiome thirdly helps in regulating immune functions. The gut microbiota helps in shaping the maturation and functions of immune system. So both no locally and systemically in the other tissues also. The gut microbiota, what it does, it stimulates like innate and adaptive immune system by which the body is able to recognize what is the self one and which one are the non-self microorganisms. The gut microbiota also capable of affecting the susceptibility and severity of different immune system like autoimmune diseases and inflammatory diseases. And these have capacity of strengthening biochemical barrier of the gut and intestine. So the gut microbiota helps in keeping the integrity of mucosal layer, and helps in defending this mucosal layer, helps as a physical and chemical barrier to prevent certain pathogenic microorganisms to cross and infect our body. And fourth, it helps in maintaining glucose stability. So certain gut microbiota that are present help in metabolizing the glucose and help in absorption and storage of carbohydrate in the gut and other tissues. And it also regulates our appetite. So you have thought of when we consume food and after some time we feel we are full. So the gut microbiota can influence the appetite and food intake by producing certain hormones which modulate, and are certain neurotransmitters are secreted and metabolites are there that affect satiety and hunger, and also reward signals to the brain, and they provide fuel for intestinal cells. The gut microbiota helps in producing certain short chain fatty acids such as acetate, propionate, and butyrate by fermenting dietary fibers in the colon. And these fatty acids can are responsible for are absorbed by the host and are important source of energy for the intestinal cells, and they help in reducing inflammation. Certain gut microbiota can modulate the inflammation by influencing balance between pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory mediators in the gut and other tissues. Some gut bacteria has capacity to produce anti-inflammatory compounds like short chain fatty acids like GABA, and some gut microbiota can also induce regulatory T cells, which are immune T cells and suppress excessive inflammation in the body. So, in this is how these microorganisms are benefiting and helping us in keeping our good health and our overall well being. So, I hope you find this presentation informative. Thank you.